Hey guys, and welcome to Janet being Janet. Okay, you're seeing this horse's butt on your screen for a reason. It's because he's full of crap, and so am I. On this channel, all I do is I talk crap. I express my opinions and only my opinions. I'm here for entertainment purposes only, and if I do not entertain you, I do apologize, but I'm here for the fun of it. I have fun, and hopefully you do too. Let's see what Mr. Snowflake and Beck have up to offer us this time in round 2.
Let's get into it.
Hi everybody, and welcome to part 2 of the audience's questions for Beck.
I'm ready to hear these questions, and I'm more ready to hear the answers.
Morning after the night before, morning after Amber's taken accountability video. Be interesting to see Beck's take on that, because that was...
It's always interesting to see Beck's take on anything whenever it comes to Amberlynn.
just new levels of patheticness. I just can't believe how terrible it was. Right. Anyway, thanks for all your questions again. This is part 2.
Anybody would be honored to have their question asked to Beck. It's Beck. They had to deal with Amberlynn for what, 5 years? That's a lot. Beck deserves a medal.
There's enough for a part 3.
Oh, so we're going to go to part 3? Amberlynn's going to be mad. Even if, what if Destiny gets in on it?
Because there's just so many. So I haven't asked them all here. I've had to really shorten it because there's so many good questions. So there is a part 3. But anyway.
Oh, he's already let the cat out of the bag, hasn't he? We're going to have part 3. I mean, I wonder how many parts there's actually going to be to this. Wow.
Part 2 for now. Thanks for your questions. Beck, thanks for agreeing to do this.
I wonder if Jordy's going to do his too. I don't know. I wonder if he's going to ask another set or not. That's going to be a lot on Beck, but they're going to get the views because everybody's going to want to know.
I can't wait to see your response to that taking accountability. Right, here we go. Did Amber ever show what you think was genuine fear or concern when it came to her health and lack of mobility?
Genuine is her favorite word. I don't think she knows the description of it. She just likes to use the words. She don't care.
Or does she just not care if she dies before 50? And did anything genuinely change after the cancer in terms of attitude or trying to get better, even if just temporarily? Good question.
She would sometimes cry and get upset about her weight.
These people are going in complete detail, aren't they? They are going just straight in. Goodness.
When I'd speak to her about it, what hurt her the most was always that she felt she would never be her goal weight and that she would never look the way she wanted to look. Weight loss is hard. I know it is. But it's been so many years since she started her channel.
It sounds to me like Beck has compassion in their voice. Does it not sound like that to you? Kind of sounds like that. And that's a little weird.
That she could have reached that goal in a healthy way, including any slip-ups along the way by now.
Okay, let me clarify. It's not weird that Beck has compassion, because Beck has a lot of compassion. It's just weird the way that Beck is saying it compared to last time.
If she had really wanted to. I think what upset her most was not looking how she wanted to. Health was not the priority at all. Her career on YouTube was much more important than her health.
Amberlynn always said that if she lost weight, she was afraid she was going to lose her YouTube channel because people were there for her to gain weight and not lose weight.
And she said as much multiple times. If she were to lose weight or not be a train wreck, she wouldn't have as many viewers. And
honestly, the truth of the matter is, she's correct.
Was the most important thing to her, more than any concern for herself, those around her, or anything else.
Amber likes the ching-ching. That's what Amber wants. That's what she likes. That's what she's going to continue to go after.
Nothing changed after her diagnosis.
Now, you can't say nothing changed because for a little bit she changed. But then she went right back to the way it was. Because when she got her diagnosis and when she started going through everything, her views went up because everybody was worried about her. Everybody was thinking about what was happening with her. And then once, then everything kind of died down after everybody realized, okay, she's fine. She's coming out of it. They got it all. Her views started dying down. And then whenever she started going back into regular Amberlynn, who Amberlynn used to be, that's when her views started picking back up. And I believe myself that when those views started picking back up, that's when Amberlynn was like, okay, so I got to go back to my old ways so that I can still make the money that I made. The problem is now that she's making that money, or she was making that money that she did make, but she's not now at this moment. she's not getting the views anymore. People are getting tired of that cycle that she's on. And because she's been on the cycle so much, she is stuck on that because she gets new people all the time, new subscribers all the time. And they're coming in for that weight loss that she's going to get. And it's going to keep going and going because they're going to find out the truth about her and they're going to end up leaving her and she's going to get more people in. Her views are not doing good. Reaction channels get more views than she does. And that tells you something.
Did you notice that Amberlynn tends to chameleon herself to be just like the people around her, especially her partners, whether it being towards you or maybe when she was around Destiny/Dana?
Okay, so I'll go ahead and tell you one thing right here. There was a girl on TikTok that sorry, they're called words are supposed to come out, but they get stuck in my tongue, or stuck in my mouth. See, I can't even say that right. But there was this girl on TikTok that would eat all of her food with mustard. And she would eat her health food and everything with mustard. And so you didn't get the taste of anything, you tasted mustard. Next thing we know, that was Amberlynn's thing to do. Then that was, her tip of the day was to eat everything with mustard. So she'll see somebody else do it, like a vlogger that she likes. She'll see somebody else do it and she'll just jump right on it like it's hers to do. She'll buy the water bottle. She'll buy whatever it is that her favorite vlogger has. She'll buy that and it's like, oh, look at me. I'm the one that started this. And she wasn't. She isn't. She's just a plain out copycat. Watch Beck say that. Sorry.
Jade or her mom. One of the most fascinating things about Amber is her recording herself morphing into different Lynns. Did you notice that? I noticed it and I don't notice anything.
In this one, he's not really doing like he did in the last one. The last one, he was doing more of like a story time afterwards and, explaining the question just a little bit more. This time he's not. This time he's being kind of short with it. He's asking the questions and then he's going straight to Beck with it. I don't know. Are y'all seeing that or is it just me this time?
I did notice that, and so did everyone around her. That was something that I'd brought up to her multiple times, and so did her friends. When we confronted her, she would say that she didn't realize that she was even doing it.
I wonder if some of it was mocking some people. I wonder if that's a possibility of it, because I think at some point she would just mock people for who they are. Or she wanted to try to be the popular person and fit in. So she thought if she was just, a carbon copy of a person, they fit in, so she would have to fit in. Not understanding that no matter who she copies, she's never going to be that person.
And that it wasn't on purpose. I always thought it was her way of trying to fit in with the people around her. I don't think she has ever truly been confident in herself or in her.
I promise. I did not know they were going to say that. I promise. It's just the way that I felt. I promise.
Own interests enough to just be herself around people. Or maybe she knew that who she really wasn't as likable as the people she wanted to befriend.
And that's why I call Amberlynn a toddler. A toddler will jump from person to person to person, especially if they want to be picked up. They don't really care sometimes who's picking them up. They just know they want to be picked up. They just want to be up off the ground. They want to see around. And that's kind of how I compare Amberlynn sometimes.
So it was easier to act like them than to be judged or scrutinized for her own personality and behavior. I think it's important to find people who like you for who you are.
But that's the thing, Beck. There's not many people that like her for who she is. Because when they find out who she actually is as a person, they don't want anything to do with her.
But I think she didn't feel like that was possible, so she had to be someone else with everyone.
And a big thing that comes up is you know her as a person. You experienced her as who she is as a person. And the question to you is, did you like her as a person? Do you like her as her own person? That's the question. If you don't like her, do you think other people do? Or would?
If she had just been herself, she could have formed real friendships a long time ago and been actually working on herself and improving all this time.
She always tries to change her personality, but she always comes across as a douche.
I don't think she tries to change her personality. I think it's more along the things of she thinks she's a good actress, but she's not. That's what I personally think whenever I watch her.
Doesn't matter which personality she picks, it's douche, 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 douche. So she needs to get better at that.
I can say I do call Amberlynn, names like toddlers and stuff, so I can't say anything about when Mr. Snowflake says anything.
Did Amber ever admit to lying about a disorder? There's so many examples of her lying about being diagnosed with stuff.
The one I always bring up is ASMR because that is pretty funny. I'm sorry, you have to admit, that is pretty funny because she likes to watch ASMR. She loves to watch ASMR videos. And, you know, it's so pleasing and calming to her. But yet, she was diagnosed with ASMR. It's just the funniest thing to me. I don't know why. It just cracks me up.
She never admitted to lying about a disorder, but I think that's because she genuinely believes that she has every single one that she says she has. She would self-diagnose constantly based on how she felt and a few Google searches.
Okay, so that right there validates what I was saying about Google. Dr. Google is always in the house for a lot of people, and that's a problem with Google. That is a big problem with Google, especially whenever you come across with somebody like Amber Lynn. Because Amber Lynn, she used to doctor shop, allegedly. She used to bounce from doctor to doctor to get what she wanted and for them to say what she wanted them to say. And it didn't always go her way.
She was constantly worried about every symptom she had, so she would always come up with a diagnosis on her own for each one. It's a bad habit and not a good way to find out what's really going on with you.
And see, when she started blaming Beck for the C word and saying it was her fault, it's like, if you Google that much and you had Google in your hand and like you Google for everything else, why didn't your Google search come up with that? Why don't you blame yourself for that? Because you Google everything else. You come up with Google on everything. Why are you blaming Beck? You should blame yourself for that. Not only blame yourself for not going to the OBGYN, but blame yourself for, your Google failing. Just my opinion.
She would go to the ER so often, but rarely or never go to a primary care physician, OBGYN, psychologist, or therapist who could have been much more helpful.
She would go to different ERs to try to get different, diagnosis because she wanted to make sure she got one that fit her narrative. So if she didn't like this one, she would drive even further away to go to this one. And not doctor hopping, hospital hopping.
And as we know, when she would go see those doctors, it would just be a few times before she would never go again.
Now, she didn't want a primary PCP no matter what. You could ask her, well, what about just getting you one doctor? And there was always a story. There's always an excuse. There was always a reason not to have her own PCP.
Amber has accused you of not allowing her to explore her bisexuality. Did she also prevent you from expressing your desire to be... See my little Jupiter's Delight smile?
Is this time different or is it just me? Maybe I just need to be quiet. But this time seems different.
It's because it's coming up in a video. Wow. She seems very upset by the implication that she would date anyone that isn't expressly she, her.
I mean, no offense to anyone. No offense. But there's I'm an energy person, is what I am. I'm just gonna be quiet.
While with Amber, she would be very defensive anytime I'd try to ask her if she may be bisexual.
That was a big, huge issue that came up after the fact of Beck and them separating. Amber Lynn likes to blame everything on Beck. That everything is Beck's fault. Beck didn't let her do this. Beck didn't let her do that. And honestly, half the time, Beck didn't care. Beck was out of it for a year, 2 years. She was mentally out of it. She was a walking zombie. So how did Beck prevent her from doing all these things? How did Beck stop her from doing this, thinking that? Beck did not stop her. Amber Lynn was the one bossing Beck around. Amber Lynn was telling Beck what to do. Beck, go to the store. Beck, buy me this. Beck, go do this. It was Amber Lynn, all Amber Lynn. So it wasn't Beck's fault. But Amber Lynn will not look at it that way because you'll be proving Amber Lynn wrong.
She would say no and accuse me of trying to label her or change who she was. I'd ask about it because she would talk a lot about being with guys, the incident at the movie theater, and about other things she did.
Yeah, she said that Jade is the only one that allowed her to be who she really is. Yeah. But if that's who she really is, then why does she keep bringing forth girlfriends?
It was okay to talk about, but it felt odd to me just how often it was brought up. I think back on it now, and I do think that she might have said those things so often to get some kind of reaction out of me.
Becky should have been jealous, I guess. Maybe you should have. Maybe you should have showed her, hey, I really want to be with you. But maybe mentally you were already checked out. You just didn't fully go out. Maybe when you had all your issues going on, maybe your mind just was checked out. You never know.
Maybe to see if I'd get jealous about it.
Okay, this is getting weird. I have not listened to this, I'm telling you. I have not. I like to just give my reaction whenever I'm talking to y'all. I think it's more fun that way, and I think it's more fair that way.
I do understand being confused about your identity and wanting to explore that.
Well, Beck would understand because Beck went from she, her, to they. So, and from past is Becky, now is Beck. That's why you'll hear me say she sometimes, and I'll by mistake, and that's why you'll hear me, say I'm sorry, is because they changed their name and their pronoun.
But I was never really given that opportunity to support her or to allow her to explore that part of her. We didn't talk more about it because she was so adamant.
And Beck is such an understanding person. All you have to do is have a conversation with Beck. But that's not how Amber thinks, and that's not how Amber works. Amber would rather have a reason to whine and complain than to just be able to say, hey, Beck, can we talk? That's not how Amber Lynn works.
That she only liked women and would shut me down anytime I asked about possibly being bi. I think it did affect me in a way, especially after the breakup.
They would prefer you just be honest and say, hey, I'm bi. That's all Beck asks, is just be honest.
And once she opened up more about it while with Jade. Jade was bisexual and poly, and Amber started to explore that more with Jade.
And yeah, Amber Lynn waited till she got with Jade. And why couldn't she be honest with Beck? Oh yeah, because Amber Lynn goes by whoever she's with, whatever she's with, When she was with Jade, she went with Jade's way. Whenever she was with the Feeder, when she was with the feeder, that's when she ate a lot on semaglutide and gained weight and blamed semaglutide.
At some point, and I've admitted this before, I think I let myself feel a little bit like if I were to be with a bi woman, she would eventually leave me for a man. That was an awful way of thinking and really pushed an awful stereotype.
But it's not awful when you've had that done to you in the past. It's not awful. It's a fear that you had. So it's not awful. Don't beat yourself up about that. I mean, it's ridiculous to beat yourself up over it.
As well as erasing the experience of bi individuals. I hate that I let myself have those thoughts. And I'm so sorry to anyone who may have noticed that I felt that way and were hurt by it.
Beck, people really should have been upset by Amber, not upset by you. By any means, they should be upset with Amber, because Amber is the one that didn't let you or herself express exactly how she was feeling.
It was an awful way to view things. I've worked really hard to no longer have that type of bias anymore. I understand now that my experiences have nothing to do with bisexual women as a whole, and my experiences should never affect my expectations of others in the future.
You have done a lot of growing. A lot of growing when Amber Lynn has stayed stagnant. It's obvious.
As for my experience as a non-binary person with Amber, I did bring it up a few times in our relationship. The only response I got was always, eh.
Did you expect to be the main topic of any kind of relationship with her? Any kind of anything with her? In a relationship with her, when you are in that relationship, you are not the main topic. You're not the one that's supposed to step out. You're not the one that's supposed to do anything like that. All attention is on Amber Lynn. She did it with every single one of her girlfriends. You shouldn't be any different.
I don't know. You seem like a woman to me. It took me saying something publicly in a video recently to get her to respect my pronouns and name. So I don't think that if I'd come out at that time that she would have respected that decision.
Reaction channels were actually going off on Amber Lynn saying, quit calling Beck by their dead name. Quit doing that. Beck does not want to be called by their dead name. Do not call Beck a she, her. Don't do that. And everybody just kept going after Amber and going after Amber. And finally, Amber stopped doing it because people just kept calling her out and said, it's not that hard. It's not that difficult. Quit. And finally, she stopped doing it. And that's how Amber is. She just does things out of spite.
What was the worst argument you and Amber got into? I'm sure it's all just molded into one horrible hue, but does anything stand out?
You're right. There was so much fighting that it has all melted together in my memory, and they were all really difficult.
I'm sure there's one. You've already named a couple that just pushed you over the edge. You've already named a couple, but there's one that just stands out and always will stand out, and that's the mama fight. That's the one that stands out to me.
It's hard to pick out just one. I think the arguments that stand out the most for me are the ones where I got so overwhelmed that I had to leave the house and get away.
And I do believe that when they got away, they immediately went to their family's house. I do believe so. Amberlynn didn't have any family up there in Kentucky, and Beck was up there. Amberlynn chose to move with Beck. That was all Amberlynn's decision. Nobody forced her to move up there. Amberlynn complained and whined the entire time because she didn't like where she was at. Amberlynn could have moved anywhere she wanted to. Anywhere. And I don't think Beck would have cared. My opinion, but I don't think Beck would have cared at all. But Amberlynn made the choice to stay. And then complain. Welcome to Amberlynn.
One time, Amber, Eric, Ricky, and I were watching Adventure Time, and Eric changed the channel without asking.
I think she already told a story like this one time. I think she did.
Amber, even though she did not like Adventure Time, and even though it was Eric's TV, had a huge blow up. I'd had enough, and I left without grabbing my wallet, my bra, or shoes. I drove an hour to my sister's and showed up at her doorstep barefoot and crying.
If she does not tell the mother story, I will definitely tell you the mother story, and you'll understand. I might have already told you the mother story. I probably did. All of these videos are starting to run together, and all these ideas that I have are just starting to run together. I'm sorry. I'm trying to just get it caught up, so that you can know a little bit more. I just want you to, mesh with me whenever it comes to this.
I just wanted to escape.
What was the day of the We Have Broke Up live stream like? Great question. What was the pre-live stream, and more importantly, what was the post-live stream like?
Okay, so the whole live stream whenever they broke up, and when Beck broke up with Amberlynn, Beck is the one that called it off. If Beck does not go into description on this, then I will let you know, okay? I think Beck will do pretty good.
Good question. I don't think about these things. The live stream itself was so uncomfortable, with ALR just staring off into the distance and making Beck do all the talking and responding to the chat.
I can go ahead and tell you now that Amberlynn said it's all Beck. It's Beck's fault. It's all Beck. And she just pretty much pushed everything to Beck.
What was the rest of the day like? Yeah.
The day of the We Broke Up live stream was really stressful. She spent the day asking me if I was sure about my decision, guilting me about how she wasn't sure what she would do without me.
She needed a caretaker. You were pretty much quitting your job, Beck. That's the problem.
Trying her hardest to make me feel awful. I wouldn't be there to take care of her anymore, and that's what she was most affected by. During that live stream and the following ones, it was obvious to me that she was trying to insult me and put me down to the audience.
I do believe Amberlynn's jealous because of the connection you had with the audience compared to the connection she had with the audience. Because Amberlynn did not have a connection with the audience. People would hate watch Amberlynn, and then they would just absolutely love on Beck. And that would make Amberlynn mad. And whenever it was just Amberlynn on live stream, people wouldn't watch Amberlynn. They would want to watch Beck. So Amberlynn had to hire Beck.
She really thought she was being clever. I knew I had to be there until I could get my things to move out, and with the promise of being paid monthly to help me get back on my feet, I tried to keep things amicable. I did try to...
But that's the thing. She promised you to be paid, but she didn't pay you. She took all your money because Amberlynn is like that. She's a money hog.
Clap back a few times, though. For over a week, it was an emotional roller coaster going from being completely fine to begging for me to come back, then emotionally manipulating me in an effort to get me to rethink my decision, and then being angry at me.
She was only angry at you because she didn't know what she was going to do. She was only angry at you because she doesn't know what she's going to do. Who's going to take care of her? Who's going to fix her meals? Because she's going to have to call out for DoorDash every single day, right? Because she doesn't get up and do anything for herself if she doesn't have to.
Once Jade came into the picture, all manipulation toward getting me back ended, and there were no longer any moments of being nice to me. Everything became about rubbing this new relationship in my face.
She just wanted to make you jealous. You probably made her madder. You probably made her mad because you weren't jealous and because you didn't care. That was probably harder on her.
And making sure I knew how quickly she had moved on, and making the split up as hard for me as it could possibly be. She treated Jade much better than she'd ever treated me, and she made sure that I saw that.
That's another reason why people, just watching her on YouTube and don't get to see her behind the scenes. That's another reason why people are just kind of like, Why is she so lovey-dovey with Jade and she's just mean to Beck? People didn't understand. People still don't know the behind the scenes. You know, they just say, oh, Amber Lynn's boring. It's like, only if you knew.
I like this one. Thank you so much, Beck, for speaking out against narcissistic abusers. It helped me recognize a lot of similarities in the way one of my family members treats the rest of us.
Oh my goodness, this is a mile long. Oh gosh, okay.
Families, man. Oh, don't get me started. And enabled me to start doing my own research on how to handle the situation. I have a question based on my own experience with that family member.
Why is it I cover two narcissists? My opinion. Why is that? For the fun of it.
Did Amber ever ridicule you or generally make you feel bad for the things you enjoy, like drawing, video games, or watching certain shows?
Yes, because that's what a narcissist does. They're all about themselves, not anybody else. Why would they be about anybody else? That's not fair to them.
If so, do you think she did that to make herself feel better, or as a way of exerting control over you?
I'm so happy that I can help empower others to speak up on similar experiences. I also really like to hear that it's helpful in recognizing this kind of behavior in others' lives.
Beck was afraid to come out and talk about anything with Amber Lynn because she had her so scared of this community and what was going to happen and what was going to be said. And it was all malarkey. Because now everybody's telling Beck, hey, we want to know about Amber Lynn because Amber Lynn's doing this and Amber Lynn's doing that and she's trying to hide this and she's trying to hide that. And finally Beck's going, you ain't hiding nothing. We gonna be doing this. And I think it's pretty funny and it's pretty cool.
I appreciate everyone who tells their stories and who just supports or watches in general. Thank you, Zalaris4144. So she did make mean remarks about the way I dressed and the way I decorated.
All right, now, so Beck, as you can tell, they kind of being old school. They dress back there in the 80s and them bright colors and all that. Now, sometimes I do bright colors, but I can't say anything about the way Beck dresses, okay? Sometimes I wear cow. I can't say nothing about the way nobody dresses. I gotta keep my mouth shut.
Otherwise, she didn't actively put down my interest, often outside of random comments here and there. I think that's because she just showed no interest in anything I liked, was doing, or enjoyed.
Look at what Amber Lynn wore. How could Amber Lynn say anything to you whatsoever at all? She wore dresses as shirts, and she always had her black short or her black pants on because she didn't want anybody to see her legs. So Amber Lynn had no right to say anything to you whatsoever at all. And she's just jealous. I mean, that's what I think. Every time Amber Lynn, okay, it would come into weigh-in day, okay? And Beck would lose, 2 or 3 pounds or something like that. And Amber Lynn would give Beck such a nasty look. I mean, just absolutely disgusting look because Beck lost a couple of pounds. And Amber Lynn didn't lose anything. Oh my goodness, make Amber Lynn so mad. But yet, when Beck came on and said I was bad, I gained like 3 pounds, Amber Lynn would go, it's okay, you'll do better next week, it's okay. I mean, that's just how Amber Lynn was, and is.
We were always doing separate things in the same room together.
Amber's probably watching this. Douche. Was Amber ever truly concerned about her health, like hygiene, mobility, etc., or was it all just an act?
Why would Amber Lynn be concerned about her health when somebody else was taking care of her? She didn't have to worry about taking care of herself. Well, so why would she be concerned about her own daggum health? Because she was getting views off. The worse her health is, the more views she gets because the more people care about, oh, what is she doing now? What is she up to? We know she's not taking care of herself, so what's the next step?
Wishing the best for you, Beck.
Amber did say that she was concerned for her mobility and that she wanted to be more mobile, but never did anything about it while with me. I think that was because her online presence was more important than improving her quality of life, just like with her health. She wasn't concerned about how that lack of mobility affected me either.
Exactly my point. She doesn't care. You were there to take care of her. As soon as you left and she didn't have a caretaker, if Jade would have said, hey, I'm not going to take care of you, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, she would be forced to do something by herself. Absolutely forced. And then she'd be like, oh crap, here we go. And then she'd have no option. She'd end up with home health aid or a nursing home or something like that. She'd end up with something because she wouldn't be able to feed herself. She wouldn't be able to do anything, go to the bathroom, nothing. So she'd be put in a hard spot.
And how much work and effort I had to put in to help her due to those things deteriorating. As for her hygiene, she really never brought up concern about it. She would douse herself in perfume sometimes to help any issues, but that's all.
We all thought that's what she did because she would always buy perfume without smelling it. Like she'd go on Amazon or something, and if Ariana Grande, released something, she would automatically buy it and then go, ooh, it smells so good, but not know that it smelled good. She would buy it for the bottle. And she still does that. She'll buy it for the bottle. I just can't do that.
I won't go into detail about smells or anything too personal, but her hygiene did affect everyone around her, myself, and others' personal belongings, and she did not show concern for any of those things.
Oh, I didn't even consider that. I so didn't consider that personal belongings. So you got to think, if someone smells bad and they're constantly in your house, and they walk by your stuff and they sit by your stuff, your stuff has got to smell like that. I didn't even consider it. Wow.
What do you think it will take for Amber to change? Ignore that question. Was Amber aware of feeder content, and do you know if she purposely made content for the feeder community? We love you, Beck.
What I just said is what I think is what it would take for Amber to change. That's what I personally think myself. I think she'd have to be forced to change.
Now it's pretty clear she's making feeder content, but back then, did it ever come up?
See, that's the thing. Everybody says she's making feeder content. I don't know. I don't care. That's what makes me a little bit different. I don't care. If she is, she is. To each their own. Because I don't care what she puts in her mouth anymore. I will tell her, don't put that in your mouth. Don't put that in your mouth. You shouldn't put that in your mouth. You don't need to be eating that. But I learned. It doesn't matter. Because she's going to do it. Because she wants the views on her channel. She needs the views on her channel. And she's going to do anything that she has to do. I think my camera's going to go off. But she's going to do anything that she has to do to get herself views on her channel. Because she needs money. She needs to ching.
Personally, I think being deplatformed would be the only way. I'm not saying I want that to happen. No matter how terrible she's treated me and the number of things she's taken from me.
I think that even if she was deplatformed, I think she would go to another platform like TikTok or something. Because over at TikTok, they like her. She gets really good comments over there.
I would never wish the loss of a job, stability, or housing on anyone. I know how devastating that is for anyone.
Yeah, so do I. It's not a fun time.
YouTube is how she makes a living. It's how she supports herself.
And that's why she's out of touch with reality. And she thinks that her job is hard. She's supposed to vlog for a couple of hours a day. And that's too hard.
And she uses losing her channel and views as an excuse not to change. The only way she would ever change is if it were her only option. So I don't see that ever happening.
Like I said, if she's forced, when somebody is forced to do something, they don't have an option.
To answer the second question, Amber never admitted to me that she catered to feeders when deciding on her content or thumbnails. She did tell me that she would do mukbangs.
So people thought that way back when? I never ever thought that. I just figured she was trying to get the views because she knows exactly what's going to get her the views. Eating.
Because they got views and would use thumbnails showing herself eating for the same reason. Knowing how often she read through her comments and looked at anything online related to her, I can't imagine that she wasn't aware of what she was doing. It definitely felt like feeder content.
See, back then I didn't even think about that. I just thought, what I thought was, hey, look, the mukbang videos, they're getting her money because everybody wants to see her eat. Because that's what she does. Because Nikocado Avocado, he gets money for eating. Chantel got money for eating. A lot of people get money just for eating and doing mukbangs and talking. So I didn't think anything different of Amber Lynn. It was just kind of like, that's the thing to do. That's popular. That's what's, on YouTube now. That is the thing to do. I didn't think anything different.
But whether she made anything outside of YouTube for that purpose or talked to anyone about feederism specifically, she never mentioned.
Does Beck know anything about Amber's falling out with Crystal? Actually, that is a good question.
Okay. Crystal is the very first girlfriend that we met on the vlog. She started vlogging with Crystal when she was living with Crystal's parents. So it went Crystal, Destiny, and then Beck, The feeder. That's the only ones you got to see. Jade was in there right before the feeder, but you didn't get to see Jade.
Yeah, tried being mates like she does with all her exes. And then it stops.
From what I witnessed, Amber very frequently reached out to Crystal. When Crystal got into a relationship with
Crystal was quiet, sweet, didn't want to be on camera, like the total opposite of Amberlynn. Amberlynn tried to be like Crystal in the very beginning, but now total opposite.
Nina, Amber was not a fan of having to share Crystal's time and attention with someone else, even though she was the one to introduce them to each other. Amber talked bad about Nina a lot to Crystal in an attempt to split them up.
Yeah, Crystal probably got tired of it. Amberlynn talks bad about everybody because she wants to be the center of attention. She does it on her channel.
When I told her to leave them alone, Amber made it seem like she was just parroting things I'd told her about my own experience with Nina and doing it to defend Crystal and to defend me and what happened in my relationship with Nina.
She likes to take other people's stories and make them her own. It's just funny because you'll see something on another channel and it'll be like, it's her story. How? When did that happen to you? You don't leave your house. How did that happen to you? It's the oddest thing.
I didn't want those things to come between them. What happened with Nina and I was unrelated, and I won't talk more about that experience because it doesn't compare to how Amber treated me at all. Eventually, Crystal got fed up and cut Amber off, understandably.
Yeah, well, Crystal's parents should have cut her off a long time ago when they started having to support her financially, and she wouldn't get a job, she wouldn't anything. She got an allowance from Crystal's parents. If that makes any sense. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Beck. When you both lived together, did she ever sit outside? How come she never goes outside, even to just sit out there? Did you get bored with being inside with her a lot of the time? I remember watching a clip from that.
There was clips where she was outside sitting outside and, swinging her legs off the porch. And she did one famous scene. Oh my goodness, it's played everywhere. Where she's sitting on the couch or on the step. She gets up and she walks out to the tree, walks around and she comes back. And she starts walking in place. And that was her proving that she could walk a distance. Everybody uses that scene.
Era. In one video, well, only one video, where Anne was like, oh, it's nice to just sit outside. I think that was her at her heaviest. So yeah, did she ever go outside? Did you get sick of being inside all the time?
She would sometimes sit outside on the front steps.
She said it was hard for her to climb up and down the steps. That's one thing she did say.
But not often at all. She usually just stayed in the bedroom and on the bed. I did get really tired of those four walls, and it really contributed to my depression.
Well, yeah, if you don't see the sunshine, or heck, cloudy skies, if you don't see something, all you see is four walls, sometimes you just get enclosed. And sometimes it feels like you're claustrophobic. Sometimes.
I think the reason she didn't go out more often was likely due to mobility, but also just her being content with her laptop, phone, and everything else being taken care of for her.
It's kind of like now. She doesn't go anywhere and she doesn't do anything, and that's been her life for a long time. And she's perfectly comfortable now, being in her house, when she's on the phone all the time. And she's good with that. It's just funny to me.
Did you believe Amber's huge list of mental disorders she said she was diagnosed with before?
How do you keep up with them? She's got to have a journal full of them by now.
She met you. She said she was diagnosed with ASMR. Before she started YouTube, she did a post saying, I've been diagnosed with ASMR. So she lies about that stuff.
Do you see why it's so funny? It's because she says it, she posts about it. And she really enjoys ASMR videos. It's the darndest thing.
Did you believe everything?
No, I knew that everything she'd mentioned being diagnosed with were all self-diagnosed. There was never any confirmation that I knew of for anything she'd mentioned having aside from cancer.
Beck knew about the C word because they were there for it all. And like I said, Amberlynn blames them for it.
What are your thoughts on Amber stealing Casey? Oh, okay, there you go, Casey. Stealing Casey's coming out story. Did Amber tell you anything similar while with you? Cheers, Beck.
Casey is the Rain and Petals eavesdrop. They used the wrong word. That's Casey.
In case you don't know, Casey told YouTube their coming out story. Amber had the exact same, word for word, the exact.
This is the one that He's explaining, so he's actually going in detail for you.
Same coming out story, so bizarre. How bizarre.
I know that I asked Amber about her coming out story, but I think she kept it vague. She said that she always knew she liked women and that her dad didn't take it well.
See, there's so much that doesn't add up because she was in foster care. And she would just jump back and forth. Just so much doesn't add up.
I had to go back and watch the Ankles video on Amber's coming out story to see what story she told YouTube.
Yeah, Angle's another reaction channel, and as they say, he can be kind of mean.
I don't remember her telling me anything about a note or anything else in that video. But no, I'm really never surprised to hear about Amber lying about anything.
Oh gosh, I'm late and there are already so many questions.
Does it sound like he's a little overwhelmed? Maybe. Kind of seems that way.
But here's mine. You made the cut, well done. You recently said that Amber used to be so mean to her mom. That she would make her cry. Did Amber ever make you cry in front of her?
You know, it seems like Amber even now is mean to her mom. Because like I said, Amber Lynn likes to talk about the how her mom wasn't there whenever she was younger and stuff. Amber Lynn likes to talk about that. And I don't think that's fair until it hurts her mom's heart. So it doesn't surprise me to make her cry.
And what was Amber's response to seeing you and or her mother crying?
Amber made me cry many, many times in front of her.
Amber doesn't care. Amber won't care. Amber can cry on cue if she wants to. Because crying is no big deal to Amber. When it's a narcissist, it doesn't matter. They can cry when they want to, and tears mean absolutely nothing because they're used to crying.
For someone who claims to be an empath, she really seemed to enjoy making people angry or pushing someone to their emotional limit based on how often she would do that to me.
When you're raised around one, you know what one is sometimes. Sometimes.
And anyone else around her. Amber's reaction was always to not acknowledge that the emotional response was due to her actions. We were always made to feel like we were exaggerating or that whatever was done.
It's, your actions are wrong, her actions are right. It's simple, easy, and to the point.
Done to us wasn't a big deal. We just shouldn't be upset with her. She would say that she didn't understand why we were upset. She could never understand why her actions and the things she said could hurt or upset.
Pretty much, she doesn't understand why there's supposed to be consequences for what she does. What she did. There's not supposed to be consequences. That's not fair.
Others. I do think she understood, but she just did not care at all. If someone upset Amber, though, it was everyone's problem, and there was no such thing as an overreaction.
You're not supposed to claim fault. If you start claiming fault, then you can be wrong. No, don't claim fault. No, then you're never wrong.
How much time in a day would you get to spend by yourself? Like, how often did she expect you to hang in the same room as her?
All the time, just in case she needed something.
Versus how often you could have some alone time in another room. Did she control most of your schedule?
Yes, because Beck said that they weren't even able to go to the bathroom, really. And so they would spend more time in the bathroom and just waste time in there, just be away from Amber Lynn more.
I would spend all my time in the same room with her outside of bathroom breaks and any time I would leave to get food or see my family. There were a lot of times where she would keep me from seeing them all together, but a lot of those times I would go anyway and just decided to deal with the consequences when I got home.
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is for permission. That's what I was always told. Don't work that way, though.
Whether I was leaving with or without her permission, there would be a time limit, and while I was gone, I would receive text messages to guilt me, saying things like, I wish I wasn't home by myself.
Yeah, she talked about this in the last one, about Amber Lynn texting her like crazy that she needed something, or, you know, something had to be done, or what about this, or what's going to happen.
During the bad times where I was heavily medicated and depressed, she did spend a lot of time in the dining room where she would do puzzles while I slept.
Yeah, but at the same time, she would get attention because sometimes Eric and Ricky would be in there. And, like, if she was in the bed, or if you were in the bedroom sleeping, and she was in the living room or in the kitchen, she knew she couldn't get any kind of attention from you anyways because you wouldn't pay attention. They would. She needed it from somewhere.
She did control the schedule, though I would sleep when I wanted to, except for all the times she would wake me up in the middle of the night to take care of something for her.
Yeah, Amber Lynn had a messed up sleep schedule, and so the whole time she was with Eric and Ricky and Beck, all the time. I need to fix my sleep schedule. I need to fix my sleep schedule. It was just a constant thing.
When she wanted to fix the sleeping schedule, she would have us stay awake for 24 hours, then crash at 9 p.m. the next day. Then she would stay up late again the next night,
And it was always somebody else's fault. I mean, always. In every vlog, it was always somebody else's fault. But she needed to stay up all day and all night. But then she'd go, I took a little nap. And it'd mess everything up again. You can't take little naps.
Or a few nights later anyway, making that entire day of exhaustion for nothing.
Whenever Amber would say she didn't like a meal or was done eating and showed a plate of food with some food left.
Dang, they're running through these questions pretty fast, aren't they? Me? I just talk too much.
Would she eat it when the camera was off? She does that now.
I don't remember her ever throwing anything half-eaten away.
Oh, no. We all know that. That's not what she does. She will do this thing where she'll order a big burger, eat a couple of bites, and be like, oh, I'm full. And then you'll see the bag and everything in the trash by accident.
If we were at a restaurant, she always finished her meal. If she said that she didn't like something, she'd usually eat it anyway, then order something else later.
I wonder when she sends the leftovers home with her mom, I wonder if she actually sends the leftovers home with her mom. Now, on semaglutide, I could understand. But on everything else, I wonder if she actually did.
Right, here we go. In the initial days post-breakup, did Amber try and make you get back together? Didn't think about that one. Or did she ever manipulate you to try and make you feel like you should get back together?
Of course Amberlynn wanted Beck to get back with them. Beck is the only one that bowed down.
Also, when you announced the breakup on stream, did she ever guilt you about it off-screen?
Of course. Because if she's going to guilt her on screen, of course she's going to guilt off screen.
Or put it off for long periods of time.
The breakup live stream happened just a day or so after the breakup. I think she spent about 24 hours guilting me offline and trying to change my mind.
She needed a caretaker. Bottom line.
Then couldn't wait to go live and publicly make me feel guilty for my decision once it became clear to her that the guilt trip wasn't working.
Amberlynn's not used to being told no. Okay, wait. Destiny would tell her no, but she's not really used to hearing no.
Even while Amber was dating Jade, she was still saying things to me like, you should feel like crap for dumping me like that.
Yeah, Amberlynn is no rejection. Destiny was the only one that she knew she could not get one over on because Destiny did not care.
Or, I can't believe you dumped me like you did.
You are terrible, trying to get out of an abusive relationship. What were you thinking, Beck? What were you thinking?
Yeah, because that's the only time she's been engaged.
Taking accountability. Was your family sad about the breakup like Amber claimed, or were they relieved?
Oh, we all know the answer to that one. They were extremely relieved.
Well, I'm assuming after the intervention, they were relieved.
My family was so happy. They were only upset that it didn't happen sooner. So yeah, I think they really all
They would have been happier if it would have happened before your mama went away. Before your mama passed. They would have been a lot happier.
Relieved afterwards.
Hi, Beck. Amber had so many rules and boundaries for what you could and couldn't do. Did you ever put your foot down on any occasion and tell her, no, I'm not doing that again?
Probably whenever you went to your family's house. Most likely. Probably.
I did put my foot down sometimes when it came to seeing my family.
That's what I figured. Because that's the only thing you stood up for was your family. Because everything else, you didn't really care about. It didn't really mean nothing. Maybe it's just petty little stuff.
That was the most important thing to me, and I deal with the repercussions afterward. There were many times outside of that where I said no, but saying no would always start an argument.
Well, of course it would, because you don't tell Amber no.
No matter what it was that she was asking me to do. The arguments would become so overwhelming and manipulative that I'd almost always end up giving in to her demands.
It's easier to give in than it is to fight sometimes. Sometimes you just walk away. Don't even care, don't listen.
Beck, what did a typical day with Amberlynn look like when you both moved to the apartment?
Lay around all day, do absolutely nothing besides Beck take care of her. Beck do everything around the house, everything for her. That's pretty much it.
What did Amberlynn Reid normally wake up? What time did Amberlynn Reid normally wake up, and what was her routine? I'm assuming it was wake up, eat a bunch of crap, and then play choosy all day.
Amber would almost always wake up in the afternoon between noon and 3.
Well, there's the answer to sleep schedule. That's why she would always say, I haven't eaten anything today. I haven't eaten anything all day long, and it's 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. There's your answer. That's what I was thinking.
The minute she woke up, she was on her phone and usually looking at DoorDash, checking socials, YouTube, etc. The rest of the day always depended on what she was into at the moment.
Normally Legos. Or games.
Usually doing separate things while in the same room. We did play Choosy at the apartment, but Choosy was played the most often whenever we lived with Eric and Ricky.
She probably need to get her mind off of everything, because I think at Eric and Ricky's is when she was bedbound.
I've read a lot of comments talking about how Choosy may have been a way to isolate me and keep me busy doing something meaningless with her for long periods of time.
Well, good point. Good possibility.
And I think they were right. It didn't leave much time for me to walk away and talk to my friends.
Beck, did you ever sleep in the guest bedroom?
Yeah, I would. My husband snores too bad. I'm like, I'm going to the couch.
Why was that the only room you were allowed to decorate?
We slept in the guest bedroom every day. Amber didn't like the new mattress or bed frame that we'd bought for our decorated room.
Yeah, that's what Amberlyn said whenever they lived there, was that she bought that expensive bed, but she didn't like trying to get in it or anything. It was really uncomfortable.
She bought it, then never spent a full night on it. As for decorating, Amber told me before we moved into the apartment that when we got our own place, she would be the one to decorate everything, and that I wouldn't have a say in any of that.
Well, of course that's what she said, but she told us differently. She said that you were going to get to decorate a room, and she was going to get to decorate a room. That's what she said. You're going to have your own room.
When I asked why not, she said, well, Destiny never cared that I decorated. I think the only reason I was allowed to decorate the guest room was because that's where all my belongings went anyway.
Yeah, plus everybody would give them total heck. Where's Beck's stuff? What happened to Beck's stuff? Where's all Beck's stuff? Because everybody was all interested in Beck's stuff because, heck, face it, Beck's stuff is really cool. All the posters and everything.
I know she didn't like my style, but she never asked for my opinion or found out what kind of decorations I would like anyway.
Maybe one day Beck will come on camera and have their room all done, and you'll be able to see all the bright colors and everything.
I know everyone has seen what my bedroom looked like, but I do have a much different style for living rooms and public spaces in a home.
Beck, you've mentioned that each time you previously tried to leave, Amber would make
Ooh, it's a novel, ain't it? Whew.
promises to change and that things would get better. What exactly did she admit to needing to change? And what exactly did she promise would get better? That's such a good one.
She's not going to admit that anything needs to be changed. Really, she's going to just fill your head full of crap.
Did she make any authentic attempt to change as promised? If so, how long did this renewed honeymoon period typically last before she reverted back to coercive, controlling, demeaning? It's too early for me to read those words.
How in the world are you supposed to keep up with all these questions? I can't keep up with them. How is Beck going to keep up with them?
In a row, and or otherwise abusive words and behaviours. Did she tend to escalate these behaviours to further wear you down and thus discourage you from another attempt?
Now, mind you, he picked this question, but it's too early for him to read it.
At leaving, you're sharing as much detail as is comfortable may help many others recognise a similar pattern in their or narc abusive relationships. I'm getting a lot of messages saying that Beck's
And you couldn't have picked a shorter one?
helping them. Yeah, what was she promising to change?
Alright guys, now that battery went ding dong on me, and then we're just going to sit back and we're going to chill and we're just going to go ahead and finish the rest of this. What do you think? Let's just press play.
It'll get better, I'll change. Change what exactly?
The promises to change would always depend on what my reason for wanting to leave was about at the time.
Here's my problem with all of this. Amberlyn, we got to see her with so many different exes. We got to see her with Destiny. Crystal. We got to see her with Destiny. We didn't get to see her with Jade so much, but we got to see her with Beck. And the thing is she constantly was like, okay, I'll change, I'll do this, I'll do that. The only way she changed was her personality depending on who she was with, because she mirrored the person she was with. Crystal was quiet, and she was reserved. Well, Amberlyn had this very quiet, toned voice. Destiny, outlandish, just outgoing, everything. And then all of a sudden, Amber just spouted these wings, and she just decided she was going to be all over the place just like Destiny. Beck, more of a kind of quiet and reserved. And so Amberlynn took control of everything. That's the way Amberlynn was. She could make all the promises to change. The only way she was going to change is when she got with somebody else. Wifey, all right, you're going to get on my schedule one way or another. Well, she did. She changed for Wifey. That's the only way she's going to change.
There were a lot of times that Amber promised me she would get therapy in order to change her behavior.
She only goes to therapy for a short amount of time just to get what she wants. Then after that, she ain't going to stay in therapy. She never does.
She never continued going after the first few appointments, so no progress was ever really made.
And that's a history of a pattern.
She promised that she would do better on her diets, that she would help to clean more, that she would be less strict. Her attempts to change were never really authentic.
And to me, she kind of treated everybody... Okay, she was a partner to Destiny, but she wasn't a partner to Beck. Beck had to do all the cleaning. Beck had to do the laundry. Beck had to do everything whenever it came to Amberlynn. If you're new coming to Amberlynn's whole thing, you do not understand how much Beck had to do to take care of Amberlynn. Beck was responsible for everything. If Amberlynn decided she didn't want to do anything, Amberlynn would lay there and boss Beck around.
After each promise, she'd try for a few days. She'd be nicer and demand me do less for her, but then gradually go right back to her old ways.
There was no gradual to it. And you heard Beck, just for a couple of days, and then it would go right back to the way it was. There wasn't no gradual. It was just, that was Amberlynn, and Amberlynn was like, I can pretend for just a couple of days, but I'm not going to change.
The less mobile she became, the more mean and controlling she would be. She became more confident in the way she treated me and in her belief that I would never leave.
It's not that she became more confident. She just became one of these of controlling. I think she was in, the controlling part was in there the whole entire time. Look at with Destiny. Oh, well, I've got to work with Destiny. Oh, I've got to be around Destiny all the time. Well, I've got to know where Destiny's going. And it was just, I think the controlling part was in there all the time. It just got to come out with Beck. It didn't get to come out with anybody else.
It continued to escalate until the end of the relationship. She also knew that the less independent she was, the more she needed me, the more bad I would feel for her, and the less likely I would be to leave.
Hi, Beck and Snowflake.
You actually gave her a way to give a pity trip to somebody. She wanted pity from somebody, and you gave her that pity whenever it came down to it. Eric and Ricky, they didn't give that pity to her, so she couldn't demand anything out of them, especially Ricky. Ricky was like, no, you ain't getting nothing from me. Eric took a step back. Beck, unfortunately, got stuck with everything. That's why that's why Ricky and Eric didn't got to where at the end wouldn't have anything to do with either of them, because they didn't want to have to put up with Amberlynn.
That's Mr. Snowflake to you. Oh, you said Mr. Snowflake, right? Do you think Twinkie and Wasabi are being cared for properly by Amber, since she has no one to help her? Well, Rarity just went missing under Amber's watch.
I believe that with Rarity, I believe there's something else that was up with Rarity, is what I believe. Now, Gracie, Destiny even saying that it was the roommate's fault with Gracie coming up missing. I think that there's more to that whole story, because with Amberlynn saying, oh, well, Gracie got out on Amberlynn's watch the first time, and then magically Gracie gets out again and disappears, and then Destiny's looking for Gracie. I don't know if I told you this part, but Destiny was looking for Gracie and put up all these flyers and everything wanting her cat back. And Amberlynn could care, two craps less. So Destiny and Amberlynn go and get this red couch. Destiny is laying on the couch all depressed and sad because she misses Gracie. And Amberlynn, as Destiny is talking about her sadness of her missing Gracie, Amberlynn looks at Destiny, and while she's logging, looks at Destiny and goes, hey, but what do you think about our new couch? And Destiny just kind of looks at her and says, I love our new couch. Because Amberlynn had no sympathy, she had no empathy, she had nothing towards Destiny, who just lost her cat of, I can't even remember how many years. It was an elderly cat. Amberlynn didn't care, and it was no time before she had Wasabi.
The state of Twinkie nails are back to being long. Amber's trying to prove she's looking after the pets. Oh, look at me brushing wasabi. Can you look at wasabi when you're doing it instead of eye banging the camera?
And that's another thing. Whenever she goes to do anything with the animals, like brushing wasabi, as he said, or petting on Twinkie, the camera is always there. And it's not like the camera is viewing the animals. Amber Lynn is viewing in the camera. So I think it's more of a photo op because everybody cares about those animals and everybody always asks about those animals, especially with Rarity coming up missing.
From my experience, she does not properly take care of her animals when living alone. I haven't seen Amber or Twinkie and Wasabi in years, so there's no way for me to know for sure if she truly takes them to see the vet regularly.
And the thing is there was a while that nobody saw Wasabi. I mean, there was a long time, and everybody was questioning her. Where's Wasabi? Where is Wasabi? Everybody was questioning her, and so she did this clickbait title about it was after Rarity went missing, about an update on Wasabi or something like that, and she showed that Wasabi was still okay and still with her. It was just pure nonsense.
Grooms them or cleans the litter boxes enough. After hearing about Rarity, it does worry me. I can't say for sure.
Amber Lynn should have just let Beck go ahead and take Rarity. That's what she should have done, but Amber Lynn is just too daggum selfish.
I wonder if you could give us more insight into your family's intervention. When they started saying red flags and when they started to warn you about the relationship.
And see, this was my question from last time. Beck was saying that there wasn't really an intervention, but there was. And I still am racking my brain and racking my mind because I remember it, but I don't remember the details. And so that's bothering me.
My family saw red flags from the beginning. My mom, my sisters, and their then husbands all quickly had arguments with Amber. My family is not perfect, and some of them have very, very different opinions from mine.
Oh, they could tell that Amber Lynn was just doing Beck wrong. I mean, they could just tell, especially, I mean, from the get-go, you could tell that Amber Lynn was bossing Beck around, and Beck was just the quiet type. And just from the very get-go, you could tell.
And not all of them support me, but my sisters and my mom did, and were nice to Amber. Amber would go out of her way to stir the pot and start arguments with them. My family pointed out that Amber was controlling.
Amber Lynn wanted all of the attention no matter what. Amber Lynn didn't want to share, and that's who Amber Lynn is. If you're hers, you're hers. You're like a piece of property.
That I was seeing them so much less and voiced their concerns about my well-being while caring for her to the extent that I did. The day of the intervention, my family asked to meet me at a park.
Oh, so now we're going to actually be... Okay, now, like I said, I was telling you last time, I do believe it was the last one that I was telling you about the whole intervention thing. I do believe, I could be wrong, but I think that's what was going on.
And I had no idea why. This all happened during the bad times, so I don't remember everything that was said. My mom was the one who planned it. She talked to my sisters and said that she wanted to meet up with me away from the rest of the family and talk about her concerns.
I'm glad that their mom got to sit down with Beck and, speak freely before their mom went.
My mom and sisters all met me at the park and sat down with me. Mom felt like I was being held hostage by Amber and being kept from seeing the family.
Hey, that's a good definition. I mean, good description. That's a very good description.
She saw the state my mental health was in because she had never seen it become so bad before. Because of that, she was really concerned for my safety and just wanted me to leave her in the situation I was in.
You know what? Sometimes whenever you're a victim in certain situations, you don't know how to get out of it. And unfortunately, I viewed Amber Lynn back then. And I didn't see the full totality of it until I started seeing things from behind the scenes. And that's when it was like a light bulb went off. And unfortunately, that's when I started, reevaluating myself on why did I not see this.
Crazy. Can you tell when Hamber is fake crying? I can.
I can, because I tried to tell her how to use the Visine trick, because she doesn't have any tears.
If so, what is her biggest tell? Love to see you thriving in a relationship with a beautiful woman. Your iceberg videos have been so fun. It'll be interesting when
Yeah, Beck does a bunch of different kinds of videos. The only ones I watch is just the ones, like, Beck does gameplay and things like that. And the only ones I watch, unfortunately, is just the Amber Lynn ones. And I'm very picky on what I watch, because half the time I'm not even watching, I'm listening, because I do so much during the day.
You, Beck, when you get all the Amber stuff out and then it's just passion project after passion project. Yeah. Anyway, can you tell when Amber is fake crying?
Most people can, and that's why she gets called out a lot.
When Amber actually cries, there are real tears. She sobs, her shoulders shake, and her voice squeaks. I don't think I've ever seen her genuinely cry on camera.
See, that's what everybody's saying. Whenever she's on camera, she doesn't cry. And when you cry, there's telltale signs because you show it in your eyes. And Amber can turn it on and shut it off automatically.
In her last response to Beck video, her eyes are dry, and she changed her voice a little to sound emotional, but you can tell it's not real.
It's kind of like her being sick and her going from hoarse to hi, and that's kind of odd to me as well. That's why I don't think it's as bad as what she says. And even going to the ER, and the ER doctor being like, boop, boop, go home.
She did that a lot while filming, then would stop the video and turn around like nothing had happened. Also, thank you. I can't wait to do more videos showing my interests in things I love.
And Beck is interested in, like I said, the 80s and things like that. So I'll pay more attention to Beck and we'll see what Beck comes up with. But according to this, there's going to be a whole nother round of questions.
What is Ella really diagnosed with? Yeah. Anything?
Too many things to answer. It's kind of like somebody else I cover, way too many titles.
Or would she just come back and go, I got diagnosed with all this? I don't know why she's obsessed with being diagnosed with stuff.
Well, the more diagnosis she has and the more things she can claim and the more pity she can get. And she can pass blame off on whatever diagnosis she has. It's not my fault. It's because I have this. It's not my fault. I have this going on. It's not my fault. She can blame it on whatever's going on with her.
While with me, the only thing she was ever diagnosed with besides cancer was bipolar disorder.
And she will blame bipolar on everything. And it's like, no, I'll call you out on that, just like I call you out on semaglutide. I still think that was a big, huge farce.
Eric, Amber, and I all visited the same doctor who diagnosed all three of us with bipolar disorder and prescribed us all the same medication based on a questionnaire the doctor had given us.
And Beck walked around like a zombie. And Amber did not. Amber was just pretty much like nothing was happening, still sending Beck to the store, still sending Beck to go do everything, and Amber was just happy-go-lucky. So, kind of funny, fishy.
The doctor eventually took me off that medicine and said my diagnosis may have been incorrect due to my reaction to the medicine. Amber stopped taking it and seeing the doctor altogether.
And that's what she does. Amberlyn will be like, okay, yep, this is wrong with me. Thanks for telling me this is wrong with me. Now I can tell my audience this is wrong with me, and then she'll just quit altogether.
I continued seeing that doctor for years. I don't know about any other official diagnosis she's ever received, and there were no more given while with me.
Oh yeah, because she's nuts.
That's the short version of it, is just that she's nuts. But, there's a lot more to it than that, in my opinion.
Was there ever a moment to where you were in so much fear from Amber Lynn that you wanted to call for help via police, family, etc.? That's a sad one. Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I ever felt the need to call the police.
Well, when Amber was bedbound, you could walk faster than her. Even when she wasn't, you could walk faster than her. Am I thinking wrong? I don't think I'm thinking wrong. Does that even make sense? I don't think that makes sense. But you could always move faster than her the entire time you were with her. So that's just an odd question.
I didn't feel physically threatened by Amber, but I did sometimes feel like calling for my family, either wanting to just talk to them or needing to run to them to be by their side for emotional support.
That's what I was about to say as soon as Beck said that. Emotional support, I understand that. I understand that maybe it was verbal, attacking and, something like that. That is possible. Just not physical.
Did Ella put times on more things than what you've already told us. How many other things did she do that with?
She would put timers on cleaning, but I kind of found that helpful sometimes. She'd sit in one spot and clean the areas that she could reach from her seat.
See, Beck would use a sock, like an old gym sock or something, and that's what Beck would use to clean. And Amber Lynn would criticize the entire time Beck would be cleaning. The entire time. Amber Lynn would just sit there, and she would supervise every bit of it. That's all. And it's like, instead of speaking and instead of griping, clean your little spot. That's all you've got to do. Leave Beck alone. Beck did so much more. But no, that's not how Amber Lynn rolls.
While I cleaned everywhere else. If I watched a movie in the living room with friends or did anything outside of the room she was in and she didn't plan on joining, she'd always ask how long the movie was.
Yeah, because if the movie is only an hour and a half, why are you going to spend any longer than that away from her? I mean, come on now. If she's going to need something to drink, she wants to know exactly when you're going to be back in the room to get her something to drink. That's what matters, not you, not your free time. No way.
Or what I'd be doing and for how long. I don't know if she'd set a timer in those instances, but I would get a text right around the time I estimated asking if I was done and when I'd be coming back.
Yep, you can almost guarantee you got a timer. She probably had an alarm set, so the alarm would go off. Be like, yep, this is when I need to call. Because she was over something. I mean, I don't even know what word you call that at this point.
She'd set a timer for lint picking, back brushing, and massages, and any activities we did together. She'd set a 10-minute timer while we watched a movie. When that timer would go off, she'd spend 15 minutes on her computer.
See, I have ADD, but I don't plan my ADD out. I just naturally go from one to and at the end of the day, absolutely is nothing taken care of because I've been all around the house touching all these things and absolutely nothing has gotten done.
Then she'd either go back to the movie for 10 more minutes or pick another activity and go back to the movie after. Sometimes it was reading, journaling, or choosing. If I was in the bathroom, there would be no timer.
See, journals, she would buy so many journals, and there is no way anybody could write in, 30 journals in a week, but she would buy journal after journal after journal after journal and just show them off and say how much she's been writing in her journals. There is no possible way a person could write that much in one journal every single day, constantly. There's no way, especially with Amber Lynn, saying how much she slept and this and that and there's just no way. And she'd get called out on it, and Amber Lynn would be like, no, you don't understand, because at the same time she's supposed to be journaling, she was also supposed to be reading. How? There's only so many hours in a day.
But she would text, call, or yell to tell me I'm taking too long.
Beck, do you know anything of the Rain and Petals? Oh, we just talked about that. Pen and Metals. So,
yeah. He needs, I don't know if he's tired. I don't know what's going on, but I'm trying to be a little bit more peppy this second half. I'm sitting down paying a little bit more attention because I ain't got to do all this stuff to fight psoriasis.
The Rain and Petals eavesdrop story, or the accusations of essay Amber has made towards people. Did she ever come clean, confide, or discredit her own stories?
No, she's not going to come clean. Why would she want to come clean? That means she's admitting guilt. She's only going to come clean in that one poem. That was her coming clean. That's all you're going to get.
I don't know how much you've seen. You probably haven't seen all of that stuff, actually. The essay stuff, claiming that she's been essayed by so many people.
Yeah, she just made a list one time and then forgot who she put on the list. Pretty much.
So many different people, and the stories changed, and the reason why she's told the stories has changed.
And all those stories is the reason why she thinks pedo is okay. Very much so. Pedo is just fine.
I'll send you all the clips if you want more clarification, but so many examples of it just flat out lying about being essayed.
The Rain and Petals eavesdrop is so ridiculous.
Yep. Pretty much that's what everybody has to say. But she can't say sorry. She can't say my bad. She can't say I'm wrong. It's just, I used the wrong word. No, you don't say something like that and then just say, I used the wrong word. No, that doesn't account for anything. You don't accuse somebody of that.
The only instance that she told me about was with Casey. She never admitted to me that what she said was a lie and never mentioned any of the other instances that I'd heard mentioned in your Mr. Snowflake's videos.
I'm glad that there's a part 3 of this, but I'm hoping that in the part 3 people get just a little bit deeper in the questions, because some of these are just surface. That, no offense to anybody, but some of them are kind of, we already knew this. You know, if you've watched Amberlynn for a little while, you know the answer to some of these.
She would bring up throughout the relationship that she didn't understand why viewers invalidated her experience, and she would tell stories about things Casey had supposedly done to her.
But the thing is Casey, she was claiming that Casey did so much to her, like would, put their hands on her, and the entire time Casey was saying, no, I wasn't doing that to Amberlynn. Amberlynn was doing that to me. And Amberlynn never said, no, that's a lie. Amberlynn never came back at Casey. Nothing. Amberlynn just wrote the poem, Rain and Petals Eavesdrop. I used the wrong word. So she never contested Casey's words. Ever. But Casey contested Amberlynn's.
I believe now that Casey is another victim of Amber, and I understand why there's so much doubt about everything Amber says.
What shows did Amberlynn say she was going to be on? Oh yeah, I was always talking about...
Yeah, the 600-pound life, or what is it? I can't remember the name of it. One moment she was going to be on that, and the next moment she wasn't. She went flip-flop several times about that one.
Some shows contacted her, this show's contacted her. What shows did Amberlynn say she was going to be on?
There was a show called Too Large that contacted her and wanted her to be on the show.
Oh, I haven't ever heard of that. I don't know what channel that's on. That one's new on me.
But they wanted her to move to Atlanta and to follow a strict diet. She told me that she rejected the show because she didn't want to move and was afraid that she wouldn't be able to post YouTube videos while on the show.
More like she wouldn't be able to follow a strict diet, because that's just not who Amberlynn is. She does the bing bong yo-yo thing.
I also vaguely remember her getting an email about being on My 600-Pound Life, but that could have been totally fake. We weren't sure.
That's the one she said she was wishy-washy on. They said that they wanted her and because of her following and things like that, and then it flipped that they didn't want her, and then yes, they did want her, and she was, like I said, flippy-floppy on that one.
Was Amber secretive with her phone during your relationship? Infamously cheated on Emily with Erica, and was still talking to Abby while with...
Amberlynn always had her phone in her hands. Always. Because she was recording with her phone. And if I'm not mistaken, Beck has already said she was very protective of her phone. If I'm not mistaken, that was when they were together.
Emily?
When we first started dating, she mentioned that she received a lot of nudes from people on Snapchat. I told her that it made me kind of uncomfortable, and she told me that she changed the settings or something.
So Amberlynn was pretty much saying, hey, I get a bunch of messages on my phone now as is. So she was setting it up from the very, very beginning of, hey, don't be surprised if this is in my phone. Well, I mean, Amberlynn, I guess, knew the story from the get-go.
So that it wouldn't keep happening. But I never looked to see if that were true. Amber was really secretive with her phone. She would take mine and go through it all the time, but told me that she didn't want me looking through her phone because she had...
Now, that makes sense. That makes sense right there, that Amberlynn, no, you're not touching my phone. I'll go through yours, but you're not as equal as I am. So you're not going to touch mine.
Private journals and insisted she needed her privacy.
Right. So that's the audience's one. There's loads. There's more. I could do an endless series on this, but there's enough for another part.
Yeah, that's what he's already said, that we're going to have a part 3 of this. So I don't even know how many parts there's going to be. But like, I'm hoping the next one goes a little bit deeper into not so much surface level, because I want to find out more myself.
But I've done a few as well, because there's a few I want to know. And with the victims, it'll tie up a few things. Anyway,
So he's going to do the victims of an empath, I think. And that's going to be a documentary. So I can do it, one of two ways. If y'all want to watch it, I'll attach the link, or I don't care how you want to do it. If you want me to explain it, y'all let me know, especially the ones that are new to it. I don't mind.
What's this one? Reaction channels. Which reaction channels did she hate the most? I wasn't around then, so sadly it won't be me. It's the ankle now.
Oh, she always says Karina Kaboom. Always says that. She's always going to say that.
How often did she talk about them? Did it annoy you how obsessed she was with them? Did she ever cry over reaction channels? She's admitted to crying over...
She is obsessed with herself. She's obsessed with the stories about herself. That's what she's obsessed with. I mean, if she could carry around a mirror and look at herself all the time, she would. That's why when she's videoing, she's not looking into the lens itself. She's looking at her own reflection in the camera.
Ask If Ann posts and Instagrams. Was she genuinely obsessed? Would she talk about them all the time? Would she cry over Geordie?
Why would she cry? I mean, I don't understand what would make her cry. I don't see Amber Lynn doing that.
I hope it's a yes.
Karina Kaboom, Willow Davis, CXNT, Charlie Gold.
I was watching Willow Davis. That was one that was really good, and he changed his format, and then I lost interest, and that's sometimes what happens with people.
Kicking Geese and Apathetic Facts.
Apathetic Facts is one that did a compilation all the time, but competitors came in, and that's what happens.
She talked about the channels daily and watched every video that came out about her.
Obsession about herself is my opinion. I could be wrong.
She loved to say that none of them would have a channel or be making any money without her.
All about herself. She says that it's all about her. And if you went to cover somebody else, she'd be like, oh, they're not getting any views on them. They need me to get views.
She'd proudly tell me about her flagging videos of theirs. It was annoying to me that she was so obsessed because it was such an unhealthy obsession.
She would say she wouldn't copyright strike anyone. Same with somebody else. But yeah, she ended up copyright striking a couple of channels, and she lied.
She would sometimes cry about the things the channels would say, calling them bullies and saying it was due to fat shaming.
Some comments. How long would you be checking comments on her videos, and did that ever annoy you? How often she would talk about them?
She did a comment of the day. Almost on every video at one point, she did at the very end comment of the day. And some of them she would just get frustrated with, because she's like, well, that makes no sense. Well, I don't know why you would feel like that. I don't know what would make you think that. And they would just frustrate her. And it's kind of like, why are you even answering them then? If you're just going to get an attitude, because it was a random one, it was a random comment picker, and you could tell the ones that she just absolutely loved, because she would just light up from ear to ear, and she's like, oh, well, thank you so much. And if you're going to you got to take the good with the bad, especially if you've built your audience that way.
Look what this person said. Look what it... How long would she be checking? Would she just check? Because every now and again she'll go, I'm not reading comments. But she is.
She says she's not reading comments. She's not watching reaction channels. But yet she ends up in their chats, in their live chats. So it's like, how do you not watch when you're in their live chats? I mean, that's Liar Lynn for you.
She would spend an hour at a time scrolling through her YouTube comments on and off daily. She would also cry about her YouTube comments and talk about how detrimental it was to her mental health.
My thing is sometimes I don't even get my daggum comments. Like, I have the app, and it won't even show me. It'll say, like, I have 6 comments, and there'll be nothing there. And then I'll go through, like, my held, and I'll go through a couple other ones, and there'll be nothing there. And I'm going, what is happening? And then 2 days later, they'll pop up. So I don't know if she had the same problem or not. So sometimes I'm late even responding to people. And so sometimes because I'm just like so busy I can't think. But then other times I don't see them. So I don't know if Amber Lynn ever had that problem or not. But I'm sure that bugged her.
But would go out of her way to read them along with posts on Reddit, Kiwi Farms, and Facebook.
Hygiene. All right. Hygiene.
Beck said that they didn't want to talk about Amber Lynn's hygiene, smell, anything. That's not what Beck wanted to do.
Well, yeah, I think you've been respectful about Amber's lack of hygiene. However, I mean, I wouldn't be. Especially not after her accountability video. I'm sorry you thought you were abused.
Amber Lynn didn't take accountability. You cannot say I take accountability, but that's not taking accountability.
Yeah, man. However, I think it's a valid thing to discuss because it must have affected you. It must have had a negative effect on you. Being around somebody who refuses to clean properly.
See, Beck already did their response of an apology because Amber Lynn did not make an apology or did not accept the things that she did to Beck. So, some of these questions, it's kind of like, talking about, we'll just see where this one goes.
That would have done my mentals in. That wouldn't have been good for me. Was it something you tried to talk to Amber about? And would she get defensive if you did bring it up, or did you not bring it up but wanted to?
I've had to take care of somebody that couldn't take care of themselves before. And they couldn't for a reason, not for Amber Lynn's reason, but for their own reason. And I know how that is for someone. So I kind of view things a little bit differently, but if Beck doesn't want to talk about it and said they weren't going to talk about it, it's like I wouldn't ask the question. But this one's, framed a little bit different, so I guess this one doesn't count.
Did she get defensive if you or anybody brought it up? I mean, you don't have to say how much she stunk or stank, but would she ever get defensive if you brought it up? The lack of hygiene.
This must be one he really wants an answer to because he's talking and, elaborating on this one when he didn't do it with the other ones.
And it is part of the abuse. That is awful to have to put up with that. So I know Amber, even though you didn't even mention the hygiene stuff before, Amber wasn't happy that you were talking about the hygiene stuff, even though you didn't.
I would talk to Amber about her hygiene. I tried to convince her to cut her hair to make maintenance easier on both of us, and she refused.
Amber Lynn would always say that her hair, was one of her prize things. And see, Beck wasn't skinny, but she wasn't big, if that makes any sense. She was nowhere near Amber Lynn's size. And Amber Lynn made this comment one day because somebody said something about her cutting her hair. And Amber Lynn said that because Beck always had short hair, and Amber Lynn said that she thinks, people with wider, round faces, something about they don't look good with short hair. Or they make it look rounder and fatter or something like that. And Beck is sitting right next to her as Amber Lynn's saying this. And no regard for Beck whatsoever at all. There's no thought for Beck at all. Nothing. And Beck's just kind of having to sit there and take it. And Amber Lynn's just talking into the camera.
I told her to stop wearing the chokers when the dark spots appeared behind her neck, and she told me it wasn't a big deal and that it was fine. I'm not going to go into detail about the smell, but it was brought up to me a lot by everyone around me, and I did have to talk to her about it.
Well, when somebody else smells and you have to smell it, sometimes you become immune to the smell. You don't smell it anymore, but other people do smell it.
Her reaction was usually to blame her depression and how she struggled to clean by herself. Eventually, I stopped asking her to help herself because it wasn't going to happen.
And I thought Beck had to take care of her no matter what. And it was Beck's responsibility, so why would Amber Lynn care?
It did get a little better when we moved into the apartment with the large walk-in shower, but I did still stand in the bathroom and help until the day we broke up.
I see a lot of abuse when it comes to you and Amber.
We're back to a long question. So we'll see where this one goes, because I thought Mr. Snowflake had some questions of his own. Got to fix the glasses.
People often mention financial abuse, which is not something I immediately think of when I think of abuse, but it's still a form of abuse.
True. I didn't think about that either. Very true.
I always think of physical or emotional, but then I see see people talking about financial.
I think about verbal as well.
I'm like, oh yeah, of course, that's one as well. That's a big one as well. Can you think of any big examples of Amber abusing you financially?
Ooh, this one's going to be good because Beck quit their job to be at home with Amber. And Amber is the one that convinced Beck to leave their job.
Amber constantly held over my head that she was the only one with an income. During almost every argument, she would tell me how she pays all the bills and buys all the food, as if that gave her a right to control me.
But Amberlynn is the one that said to quit your job. So that's on Amberlynn. But that's also Amberlynn not taking accountability and not taking responsibility for an action that she caught.
And as if I contributed nothing to her life. I would tell her each time that if she felt that way, I'd gladly go back to working. She'd quickly say, no, I don't want you to do that. And she didn't.
She would flip out. Because if you go back to work, then who's going to take care of her? Who's going to do everything for her? Who's going to bend over hand and foot? I mean, come on.
She couldn't handle being apart from me for any extended period of time.
That makes sense because she couldn't stand to be away from Destiny either. That's why she worked every single place that Destiny worked.
She needed a caretaker, and that was already my full-time job, and a thankless one.
Yep, it's kind of weird hearing Beck say that was a job, and Beck not saying girlfriends.
Despite that, and doing what I could to contribute by also being in the vlogs, when she knew full well that I didn't want to be, in order to earn the home I was living in her mind.
But Amberlynn moved into the place that Ricky, Eric, and Beck were already in together. They were renting together, all three of them. And Amberlynn moved into the house with them. So technically, she should not have said anything to Beck, and she should have been appreciative to have a home to go to.
She would also be sure to take away any money I'd get from other sources. I mentioned this before, but even being seen collecting change would trigger her to...
See, and that's crazy. And that is absolutely crazy. You can't have, a couple of quarters to get something out of a vending machine or, a gumball. Something like that. That is paranoia to her. Yeah, whatever. She just wants to be in control of everything, and money included.
Question whether I was saving up to leave her. When my mother passed away, me and my siblings received a portion of a settlement from my dad's job that ended up being around $5,000 to $6,000 for each of us.
Well, that's a pretty good chunk for you. I mean, hopefully you did something good with it. I mean, hopefully you did.
I was not allowed to keep it.
Why weren't you allowed to keep it? It's your money. Where did it go?
She told me that the money had to go into paying the bills and my half of the rent.
Your half of what rent? What rent? Where were you living?
My mom had plans for when she would have received that money before she passed away.
I guess you were living in the apartment with Amber. I guess that's after you moved out. I think that's after you moved out of the house. I think. I'm just kind of unclear on that. So Amber had the money? So Amber got a hold of your money and kept your money. How?
Getting it was bittersweet, and I would have liked to use it in some way to honor her.
Well, I mean, it was your... You and her shared a bank account. Okay, because I remember Amberlynn, saying, well, she had Amberlynn was saying that she gave you a debit card so that you or Beck would have access to her bank account so that Beck could get anything Beck needed or Beck wanted. But Beck was actually using that to get Amberlynn everything Amberlynn wanted. So that makes sense.
She wouldn't have wanted Amber to have it, and it really hurt, but she took it anyway.
Yeah, nobody in Beck's family liked Amber. And Beck and Amber's mom fought. And I can't remember if I told you the story of the voicemails between Amberlynn and Beck's mom right before she passed away. Amberlynn is vicious. She is vile. And she is absolutely rude. She is nasty.
When I told her that I would like to do something with the money, she dismissed it and treated me like I owed it to her and it wasn't my choice. She said that I couldn't have it because the bills needed to be paid.
Amberlynn was making bank back then, and she was bragging about it. She was pretty much giving money away. She was buying toward almost every week. She was buying stuff, and then she was donating it to Goodwill like it was nothing. So, what the world?
Even though I knew that she was making enough from YouTube to cover bills and rent with no problem.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Beck. Not a super long one. Actually, I don't think it was. Oh, no, it wasn't.
Oh, Beck's putting it on the screen. Thank you, Mr. Snowflake. Okay, so we know round 3's coming up.
Like I said, there's another part there if you want to do it, but there's no rush because this must be a bit draining.
See, this one was kind of like he didn't have any energy, and I guess that's why the first part took me a little while to get into it, because I was also doing, my morning thing as well, and I guess that's why it took a little bit, so I had to just kind of sit back and just be like, all right, we're going to find our own little groove.
Well, I'm hoping it's good for you. Like I've said before, it was good for Casey. I was really sad about the Casey interview, but he said, no, it was good. It's good to get this out.
Remember, if y'all have any questions, just ask me, and I'm going to continue trying to do both people. And so I'm going to get better at this, and it's not hard to, catch you up on Miss Amberlynn.
I suppose you do after a while, don't you? You suffer all this abuse, and then after however long you think, right, I'm ready to share my story.
You know what? Beck wouldn't be talking if Amberlynn would have kept Beck's name out of her mouth, because all Beck said was, don't put my name in your mouth. And they kept saying it and saying it and saying it, and Amberlynn would not listen. Amberlynn monetized Beck's name over and over and over again. Beck finally got tired of it, and now Beck is monetizing Amberlynn's name.
Like I say, I've had plenty of messages from people saying because Beck is doing this, I feel a bit more confident to speak up. I think we had one there, didn't we? I feel a bit more confident to speak up about my situation. Right, anyway, thanks for doing this, Beck.
Yep. Beck, this was a very nice thing to do, and it is still going to continue to be a nice thing to do, especially if you're going to do another one.
I hope you're doing all right. Right, cheers, everybody.
Those were all really good questions, and I hope I was able to give you guys some interesting answers.
Yes, you did. I actually learned a couple of things that I didn't know.
I want to thank everyone once again for watching this video, and to Mr. Snowflake for putting it all together, and of course everyone who asked me questions.
I can go ahead and link Beck's channel if y'all want to check out Beck's channel as well. Like I said, Beck does a couple of other things, and if anything else is posted, like a Q&A, I don't mind.
This is the second Q&A we've done, and I'll link the first one in the description below. Maybe if you guys like this one too, we could do more of these in the future.
Well, if there's a part 3, then we know we'll be doing it. So I can hopefully... some people say that these are helping because they're getting caught up on Amberlynn just a little bit more. And now you know who Beck is, and I can introduce you to the characters. And... You'll know, because I got a couple more videos showing you the raw side of Amberlynn, the behind the scenes.
I'm so grateful for being able to tell my story and for everyone willing to give it a listen. I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye.
Well, bye, Beck, and I'm glad you're doing a whole lot better than you were. Alrighty, guys, I didn't mean for this to be this long. I honestly didn't mean for it to be this long, and I do sincerely apologize. But sometimes I just want to make sure that I'm thorough with you, and I want to do y'all right, and I want to be fair by you. So I want to go ahead and I want to say I hope you have a good day, night, weekend, holiday, year, whenever you might be watching this, and hope you remember to smile today, or make somebody else smile, because it really can make a difference. Yeah, I just made a lot of work for myself, you know that? I just did. My husband, actually, first it was my son. My son told me, he goes, Mom, if you didn't talk so much, you wouldn't have to worry about doing so much. I understand this, okay? I understand this full-heartedly if I didn't talk so much. But I do, all right? I can't help it. I talk to a point to where I can't talk so much, or can't talk no more. I done said so much. That's how my mind works. So, yeah, now I got to deal with all of my talking, and I got to listen to myself talk. That's the fun part of it. Because as I'm editing, I'm like, Janet, won't you just hush? But I don't. So hopefully I don't bore y'all. That's my hope. Alright, guys. I hope y'all have a... Oh, yep, more hopes. But I do hope y'all have a good one for me. Bye.